Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. We have Dan here today and he's going to sort of talk us through 5 things that will make you more comfortable on the bike. If that is something that really does interest you guys, make sure you do like this video and subscribe to the channel. 5 things that will make you fitter, faster and more comfortable on the bike. Over to you.
So we're going to look at 5 things today on the bike. The first and number one most important thing is always going to be the saddle position. We want to get the saddle position right. Second thing is the cleat position, making sure they're even side to side. Third is going to be looking at the front end and especially the shoulder angle. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about is movement snacks. These are things off the bike that we can do to try and help our riding on the bike and try and prevent a little bit of injury on the bike. And number 5 is going to be talking about load and just making sure that we don't really overload ourselves because our body's going to adapt and we want to give it a bit of time to adapt. A little look at the angles that Chris makes on the bike. It's been decently, the best thing that's been looked at is the knee angle. So I'm just going to get a little video here on this app, and this app we can really slow it down and we can pause the frames a little bit so we can have a little look. So we want to get bottom dead center here, and then we want to look at the knee joint angle from the hip to the mid joint line. Generally what we want with this is 30 to 35 degrees. So what we're looking at here is 180 minus that is 36 degrees. So Chris is a little bit more bent than what that optimum range is. 36 is not bad though. If he's comfortable in that position, I would go there. But what they've also found is that higher is generally slightly more efficient than lower. So we've spent a lot of time actually moving Chris down in the saddle because he used to point his toes a lot the whole way through, and we want quite a fixed lever down at the foot. So what we can see now is his ankle angle is great. So he's made changes there. 97 degrees is great. 95 to 100 is where I like people to sit. So Chris is smack bang in the middle of that. He used to sit at around 110, 120. So he's made some relatively big changes there. So these 2 angles are 2 of the most important angles. And you want to look at that in conjunction with what they're doing at the hip. If they're too high, what they can do, what you can see sometimes is people adapt. So your knee angle could stay perfectly in that angle that we want to see, but they'll either point their toes too much or drop down at the hips a lot to try and reach down towards the pedal. If the saddle's too low, the knee can bend up more, but sometimes the knee doesn't bend up more, and what we see is the ankle will be more dorsiflexed or more bent at the bottom, or they'll be moving even less than what's normal at the hips. And it's normal to have a few degrees of movement at the hips and lower back. Going up. Little tip for people with aero seat posts. When you do it up nice and tight, and then just whack that seat post around. Just like the normal bits of movement that you'd get on the ground. And then after you've done knocking it around, what you'll find is that you'll often get another half turn or full turn. If you find your seat post is slipping all the time, tighten it up, whack it round, and then tighten it up again.
Okay, so yeah, come up a centimetre, it'll be interesting. He's just going through the metrics of it at the moment, but so it feels like the angles are less aggressive, so there's a little bit more kind of freedom, I suppose. Generally, starting to ride with that. Yeah, feels good. That's all I wanted to say.
As I said last time, we want 30 to 35 degrees at the knee angle. We're looking at 32 degrees now, rather than the 36 that we had before. So a lot of changes happened at the knee. The ankle at 97, 98 has had a little change as well. It's come up a little bit, but it's still well and truly in that 95 to 100 range. And even a little bit over 100 is not the worst at the ankle. So the ankle hasn't adjusted, you're not reaching anymore for the pedal, the knee's adjusted, which is exactly what we were after. So I had a little look at his knee over pedal spindle. So that's where the line of his kneecap here sits over the top of the pedal spindle at 3 o'clock. There's a big theory that you want the knee smack bang over the pedal spindle. not forwards, not backwards, not anything like that. I don't think that theory holds up. It's a mathematical modeling theory on knee loads. It's not live people. It's not people that can adapt and get used to loads. What I generally find for people is somewhere between 2 to 4 centimeters is pretty comfortable. Chris is 3 centimeters on the right side, 3.5 on the left. With him not sitting perfectly straight on the saddle, that's about what we'd expect, a little bit of a difference side to side. And I think that 3 centimeters is pretty fine. What you'll find is a lot of TT bikes and stuff, people can't even get the knee over the pedal spindle with the design of the bike these days. So if you have knee issues, then yes, bring it back and try and get that knee over the pedal spindle, take a little bit of load away. If you don't have knee issues, coming that little bit further forward, you can sometimes get into a bit of a more aerodynamic position and you'll find it just as comfortable. Probably your biggest consideration with the front end of the bike, apart from how up and down you are, that's all aerodynamics. What we want to have is the shoulder angle somewhere between 90 and 100 degrees. That's what people find generally pretty comfortable, and it's going to take a lot more of the pressure out of the shoulder. So Chris, we eyeballed it with Chris and he looked pretty good, but we're just double checking, and he's at about 92, 93 degrees with this, so his shoulder's in a really good position. If someone's shoulders aren't as strong, maybe you'll come more towards that 90. If they're feeling quite good, quite strong through their shoulders, they're good on the bike, then you can go out a bit more out towards that 100 and maybe get a slightly more long aerodynamic position. Quick test, move your hands back. If you're always holding back here, then that's a good indication that your stem's too long and can give you an indication of how too long it is. So you want to be holding your hoods where your hoods are meant to be held. If that doesn't feel comfortable, and you're naturally going back, then change your stem length. There are now 2 other things that are a little bit less on the bike related is your movement snacks. So with your movement snacks, cycling is very much, you only do one movement, you only do one style of thing. So it's good to have that little bit of cross training. A little bit of strength training has been proven to help performance-wise as well. It's best to have someone look at you and see where your weaknesses may lie. Even if you don't, just try and think about things that we don't do on the bike, so lifting the leg out to the side or in towards the body, that sort of thing that you don't do as much of on the bike. One of the first things that we're going to look at is this is a sort of a general test for hip abductors in a bit of a bent position. Just push out into my hands, Chris, hard as you can. So there's a slight difference here side to side that I can feel, with the right side being slightly different to the left, but generally they're pretty even side to side. So I really like this one for cyclists, because you're pushing down with one leg while you're pulling up with the other leg, which is exactly the same motion as you're doing on the bike. When you're pushing down on one pedal, you're pulling up through the other pedal. So it's working you very similarly to on the bike and similar forces through the pelvis, but it's strengthening, so it's generally a little higher force than what you're doing on the bike. So this will be good for the...
Remember to do this one. This is a good one. Really good one.
The last thing, and almost the most important thing with any sort of bike fit, is you want to give yourself time to adjust and get used to something. Our body is highly adaptable and it'll adapt to everything. So you want to really monitor your loads, how much you're training, how much you're riding, how much high intensity stuff you're doing. Doesn't matter how good your bike fit is, if you do way too much, you're going to hurt yourself. So try and get that right. It's always good to work with a coach with that sort of thing, someone that's watching over you and making sure you're not doing too much, or by the converse, too little, because undertraining can cause some issues as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. We'll find a like and subscribe down here somewhere. We'll find a like and subscribe You'll find a like and subscribe down here somewhere. And Chris will put some old race footage up here and some bike porn over here somewhere. And don't forget to hit the bell so you get little alerts when the videos go up. Thanks, guys.
Dan, have you got an Australian jersey for the wall?
It's got like 12. It's got like 12 of them.
It's like, you ruined my first half of the joke.